Show. I am your host, Chelley Roy, and we have an amazing show for you guys tonight. I pray that everyone is continuing to stay safe and sanitized. I pray that you guys are having a great week so far. Before we kick off the show, it's important that we thank our sponsors. The Chelley Roy Show is sponsored by Built on Survival Skills Apparel. We're also sponsored by Liquid Lipo, where you could lose up to a pound a day. I also want to thank my makeup artist, Amber Singletary, and my photographer, Stephen Tucker. You guys stay tuned. Don't go anywhere because up next we have candidate Attorney General, Mr. Ryan Jones, and also candidate for Sheriff for PG County, Mr. David Grogan. You guys stay tuned. We'll be back after this break.
I'm about to go slay Chelley. I got my brushes. It's Wednesday. The Chelley Roy Show is tonight. I gotta go. And make sure you tune in at 8 o'clock. Asking me where I'm going. Duh, it's Wednesday. Girl, Chelley. The Chelley Roy Show. Well, shoot. Let me get my remote turned on.
It's the Chelley Roy Show. It's the Chelley Roy Show. It's the Chelley Roy Show, and it's going down. You can laugh, you can learn. Chelley Roy, it's your turn. You can laugh, you can learn. Chelley Roy, it's your turn. You can laugh, you can learn. Chelley Roy, it's your turn. You can laugh, you can learn. Chelley Roy, it's your turn.
Hi, I'm Ryan Jones. I'm running for Attorney General for the District of Columbia, and I'll be on the Chelley Roy Show tomorrow at 8 p.m. And I hope you tune in. I'm excited to be back. About a year ago, I started my campaign, and I was on the Chelley Roy Show, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to share all the growth we've had since. Looking forward to it. I hope you tune in.
It's critical to me, and I know it's possible if we put the real people in place to make a real difference. I'm that. I want to be your attorney. I've been doing it effectively over the last decade, and I know that I'll be able to do that from this position for you. So please, I'm Ryan Jones. Vote for me. Come out, support me, listen to me, and learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Welcome back to the Chelley Roy Show. I am your host, Chelley Roy, and my first guest is here, D.C. candidate for Attorney General, Mr. Ryan Jones. Welcome back, Ryan.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back.
Has it really been a year, though?
Just about. 11 months.
Oh, my goodness. Time is flying.
Right.
Oh, we have so much to talk about. So I tried to write down some topics and some key points.
Okay.
To kind of keep us both on track. It may be hard because there's so much to try to cover in like 15, 20 minutes. So tell everybody your background and your ties to the city.
Okay. Born and raised in Washington, D.C. Had my mother and father and brother helping me navigate D.C. as a youngster. And I went to DeMatha for 2 years where I played basketball, transferred to St. John's. Did a prep year at Hargrave Military Academy, played basketball in college, came back to D.C. after college, and continued to try to, pursue those basketball aspirations.
Sounds like you were good, though.
Yeah, I was.
Not everybody get to go to St. John's.
Well, yeah, I worked hard.
Yeah.
My best basketball accolade, in my opinion, is Berry Farms Rookie of the Year.
There you go. That's major. Like, everybody wants to make it to Berry Farm School. Like, that's like a league in itself.
It is.
So don't discredit yourself.
No.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I salute what Miles Rawls does for the
Yes.
community, the Goodman League, what it's been able to accomplish over the many years, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to continue it as DC changes.
And we're constantly changing, constantly evolving. So we're going to talk a lot about what has evolved since you first started the campaign. I know when you originally started, you didn't really have any running mates, I don't think, at the time.
That's right.
So much has changed, you've evolved.
That's right.
The campaign has evolved. So getting to some of the points, talk to me about the state of the campaign and what it required to get you to this point right now.
Wow. Look, after June 21st, I will not be the same person. I'm already not the same from when we met June 24th, I believe.
Yes.
And so we had to get 2,000 DC Democratic registered voters to sign our petition to get on the ballot. What that really means is you got to get 4,000, because not everybody's going to write their address correctly, or they don't sign something, they don't date something. So you're going to need to you're going to need to get 4,000. We ended up getting close to 4,300. But then
That's amazing.
not everybody says yes to you.
Yeah.
Many more people say, hey, get that thing out of my face. So you've talked to thousands and thousands of people, 7,000, 8,000 people, just to get those 4,000 signatures.
Wow.
Along with people who are helping me. I didn't do this all by myself.
Of course.
We're participating in the Fair Elections program that allows candidates, if they can get, in our particular race, they can get 500 DC residents to donate. DC would then match your contributions 5 to 1.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's big.
Right. Getting 500 donors is a very difficult task.
I can imagine.
Most people aren't engaged into to a level where they donate to a campaign,
Right.
let alone sign a petition.
Right. So perfect segue. And thank you for giving us the analogy and kind of breaking it down and putting it in perspective. Because when you said you originally needed 2,000, but then you had to kind of do double the work to make sure that you met that number. Along with that, what happens, because I know you mentioned something in reference to whether or not someone filled out the information and they may not have filled it out correctly. What happens in a situation like that? Do you go back
So
to try to get it rectified, or?
there's a 5-day period after turning in your signatures to the Board of Elections and Ethics where people can challenge your petitions. We turned in the most of the candidates in this race, so people weren't really gonna challenge us. But other people who are running for other races have been challenged. They were challenged on the basis of not having proper signatures. Now you get 10 days from the date of a challenge to cure any potential issue. You got to go back to that voter. Hey, can you write this date in? Maybe someone didn't sign the bottom of the petition page as an affidavit. Person that got the signature. Did you date that correctly?
Right.
Put your signature on there correctly. That's your actual address. Many different things that will create a hang-up for candidates while trying to pursue public office in order to do on behalf of the public.
That's amazing that you said that. What I was thinking about as you were saying that, the work that goes into going back to rectify that, but then not necessarily the frustrations that may be, received on the end of the actual resident, you know what I mean, of not being able to obtain the information the first time.
Right.
Talk to me about, because I know you experience so much and you learn so much as you're out on a campaign and you're talking to different people. The biggest thing that I find, or what is the biggest thing that you find as it relates to people not voting? Because there's a gap there.
In talking to many people, I've heard things like, I've been around long enough to know that you folks that run for public office don't actually do what you say you're going to do. I'm not going to help you and I'm not going to participate in it. I think that's a flawed thinking because we're watching right now Roe v. Wade be overturned by the Supreme Court that's been put into place by people like Donald Trump, conservative views, and now people are pouring out into the street mad and upset. And so get mad and upset enough to go to the polls and believe what people
Yeah.
are saying. What's really interesting is I'm being incredibly honest with it is with my mission. I'm telling people exactly what I'm going to do if I get into office.
That's good. That's important.
And I believe other candidates are saying the same thing. I don't think Donald Trump lied when he was saying what he was going to do. And look, he went out there and did it. Now we can't be shocked.
Right.
So I think it's incumbent upon every public servant, every elected official, every candidate, go tell your truth, go tell your platform, so people know what they're voting for. You
Yeah.
got to inspire people to get to those polls.
That part. And I think the campaigning, going door to door is really, really important. So another point to that is basically when you were talking about the different support systems that you have, it's important to make sure people vote. It's important to make sure, people get out and have their voices heard. And the other point, I actually forgot the next point I was going to make, but it'll come back to me.
We all forget sometimes.
I know. It's so much on my brain. Talk to me about the wins of the campaign and doubling down to get the petitions that you guys need.
All right, so getting financed, that's a win. Meeting that threshold, qualifying for the program, that's a big thing. Getting the petitions, that's a huge thing, right? But now we're at a place where we're turning in questionnaires to organizations. We're meeting with people to try to galvanize support in a public way. And I think when we started this, all of that was up in the air.
Yeah.
Didn't know what it takes to wake up during the cold months of January, February, and March and have to get petitions, and you're sharing your message, giving people literature, saying, believe in this, sign this, and then it becomes a part of you. So now you're championing your message and it's being honed, and now we're in forums.
Repetition. Yeah.
Right. So now we go into forums, and now I have my competitors there. They're spitting out their message, and how clearly and cogently are they relaying their message to the general public to win their vote, win their support. Am I doing the same thing? Do I have my message down? Is my message what people want to hear?
Right.
And I think we're in a great place to be successful with 3 people in our race. I am the youngest of the candidates in the race, but I have the most unique experience
Yes.
and well positioned to put DC on track for a better way. Government needs a course correction. It needs to meet people where they are.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
We've watched what happened in 2020 and the disparities grow, and we need to correct them. How do we do that is by putting new leadership in there, vision that can cure old problems with new solutions. And that's what I represent. People talk about racial equity.
Yeah.
I represent that. As an African American and lawyer, we represent 3% of the profession. We don't
That's a good point. Yeah.
and we're 12% of the population or more in the United States. So we're underrepresented in this profession.
Wow.
And the profession of the law, which guides our lives. So the hardships that some minorities are dealing with is based in and rooted in the fact that there's underrepresentation in the roles that affect their daily life.
That's a good point. The other thing that I was thinking about earlier that I actually forgot, I know when you started your campaign, you had the visions and your approach and some of the things that you kind of wanted to attack. But along the way, as we talked about, you've evolved, the campaign has evolved. Let's say, for instance, you started out with 3 things that you really wanted to change and kind of attack. How has that changed as you have gone door to door, listened to some of the pain points and some of the changes that the residents wanted to see?
I think we hear sound bites from politicians, and it's always the same thing. Safety, fair housing, jobs, clean food and water, and things of that nature, education. I don't think those get put to the side, and I don't think you elevate one over the other. I think you push that agenda all at the same time. You can
Right.
do that with the law. So my message has been shifted a bit.
Okay.
All right. So I'm not excluding any of those. I'm incorporating all of them on the level playing field.
Makes sense.
So we look at our code, our DC code, and our DC municipal regulations. We need to revise all of those so that there's equity baked into the code that guides our lives. that regulates our agencies that
That's
then
a good
affect
point.
our residents.
Mhm.
That is what we're talking about when we want systemic change.
Yeah, that's a big one. Systemic change, for
That's
sure.
that's what it looks like, and that's how it has to be done. My next point, we talk about access to justice, and that was like one of the things that I used to talk about. What does that really look like in practice? I've broken it out into 3 separate points, but that's my game plan.
Okay.
Expungement clinic.
Hold that
Okay.
thought. No worries. We're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Ryan Jones. I'm running for Attorney General for the District of Columbia, and I'll be on the Chelley Roy Show tomorrow at 8 p.m. And I hope you tune in. I'm excited to be back. About a year ago, I started my campaign, and I was on the Chelley Roy Show, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to share all the growth we've had since. Looking forward to it. I hope you tune in.
It's critical to me, and I know it's possible if we put the real people in place to make a real difference. I'm that. I want to be your attorney. I've been doing it effectively over the last decade, and I know that I'll be able to do that from this position for you. So please, I'm Ryan Jones. Vote for me. Come out, support me, listen to me, and learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Welcome back. I am joined here with Candidate Attorney General for DC, Mr. Ryan Jones. We were talking about early voting. So as we're talking about change and everyone getting out, how it's important for people to vote, get out and make their voices heard. Early voting is when? In June? When do the people need to get out and vote?
DC's doing something unique and different this time.
Okay.
They're mailing ballots on May 16th to every registered DC voter. So you can take that mail, that ballot you got in the mail, and drop it to a drop-off box. Your ballot, whenever you decide. Now,
Okay.
early voting, you can go into polls early, starting June 10th.
Okay. June 10th. Okay.
June 10th to maybe June 18th or 19th.
Okay.
That's the early voting period at polls.
Gotcha.
Then June 21st is election day. That's the last day to get in there.
Okay. So you said the mail-in ballots are being mailed out in May?
That's May 16th. They're going out.
Okay.
Start receiving them, and then they can just fill them out right at home and then drop them off to a ballot drop box.
Okay. So that's a big one because, things get lost in the mail. You get it in the mail, you get busy, you forget to fill them out. So how are you encouraging and motivating people to, if you're going to do the mail-ins, when you get it, fill it out, drop it off as soon as possible?
So we're going to instruct our base and hopefully voters at large to follow the instructions that are out there at the website for the Board of Elections and Ethics.
Gotcha.
Then we're going to send out mailers, and our mailers will be going out right with those mail-in ballots so that you can follow right along with, you're going to vote for Ryan Jones. Here you go. Here's his name on the ballot. Just enter your information step by step. Try to make it as easy
as possible.
That's right.
Yeah, easy as possible. That way you can get everything done. There's no confusion, and people know exactly who they're voting for.
That's right.
So that's good. So you guys get out and vote. You guys make sure you mail in your ballots as soon as possible. Vote for Ryan Jones. All right, so the next topic I want to talk to you about, I know as you have evolved doing this campaign, doing your platform, your confidence has evolved. How would you say the confidence of the voters who you are seeking the vote from has grown?
I'll take a real life example. We had a forum on DC, David A. Clark Law School, and in Ward 3 and Ward 4 for that Democratic party. And as I finished, people came up to me and said, wow, I think you've changed a lot of minds. I think as people get more comfortable with you, they see you out here, they see you putting in the work, and they recognize your progress, people take you more seriously.
That's important.
It reaffirms everything I think I already knew. And it affirms the mission. This, I say, is not about me. This is about
not.
you.
Yeah.
This is about the district residents. This is about the district government. And this is about changing the way we live as a society so we can get better. I just happen to be the vessel,
Yeah.
right? So this message comes from a higher place. And I keep that in mind when you say, hey, look, your confidence. Look, I get my confidence from him, right? So
Amen.
that's a part of all of this. And so I'm very happy at the progress because the things that we did in order to get to the point where my name is on the ballot is a huge, huge step.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful. I'm, wanted to make my family proud, want to keep them proud,
Yeah.
and all the people that support me, that we put a good package together, put a real fight out there, to make a difference.
And you're doing all of that, and I know that you're going to do a great job. I know that we're going to see a lot of the changes. So as you talk about the confidence and you evolving and you see the voters' confidence evolve, how would you, or what would you say you've learned between now and then?
I want to tell this story. You're going out knocking door to door. You get to see people in their homes.
Yeah.
You get to feel them where they are exactly. And you're not going to catch everybody in the same mood. I knocked on one door in Manor Park, an older resident. Her name was Bernice, and she had to be in her 90s. She looked like she could be, my grandmother. And using a cane, invited me into her home. A complete stranger.
Yeah.
A complete stranger. Moved her, pad off of her dining room chair to allow me to sit down and said, now, tell me about yourself. And, while this pandemic is still raging, I got my mask on and I just felt overwhelmed with the emotion that she would trust me.
Yeah.
Bring me into her home. And then as she's going down the list of names that I had already signed for my petitions that day, she didn't recognize the names of her neighbors.
Wow. Okay.
Right? So she's a historic resident in a neighborhood that's transitioning, in a neighborhood that's just evolving around her. And then you have to think, why don't your neighbors know you?
Right. Yeah.
If you have a trouble, are they not there trying to take care of you? If they not try to introduce themselves to you, not seeing the senior who needs you, as a neighbor? And that means we have to do a better job just at the basics.
That is so important.
Walking up and down the street. Hi, how are you? That way you can create an atmosphere of care for one another just by opening your mouth. So that's one of those things that resonated with me in this process, because I can get out here and I can tell you about, we're going to change these laws and I'm this great lawyer and I'm going to fight zealously in these courtrooms, yada, 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 yada. But we're going to keep having to do those things. We have a society that's always trying to take advantage of one another. A society that we don't put enough love in how we treat one another. That's where the violence stems from. That we think this is an okay way to behave. And we don't respect our elders.
Yeah. That's important, though. That's a big one. Just being able to, like you said, have that influence and her feel safe enough to trust you, to welcome you in, to kind of get through and talk about some of the pain points and what's a great concern to them.
Right.
Which is really good. Let's talk about the main pillars of your campaign and some of your actions that you plan to attack. Talk to me about the task forces for DC codes?
Right. So we want to do a task force, partner with the American Civil Liberties Union, and go through the DC code in its entirety. We would have to work with council and the mayor in order to implement the revisions, amendments, and anything we need to revise or repeal. After that, we would use outside counsel to get an expungement clinic set up right up in DC Superior Court that allows residents to go in and get access to justice by having someone go and remove some of their past criminal record so that they can go and get a job, right? So they don't
That's a
recidivate,
huge need.
right?
Yeah.
Give them a real opportunity, a fresh start to have at least a balanced chance to get a job. Then we need to talk about trying to close disparities. How do we do that? A wills and trust clinic right there in DC Superior Court. Bring people there and get your assets protected so that you can then pass it down and create wealth for the next generation so they're not dealing with the same hardships you dealt with in your lifetime.
That is so major. Those are two big ones, for sure.
And lastly, is just expanding public advocacy. That means we're going to help put some money into law firms so that they can take on fights on behalf of district residents. So if they're being taken advantage of, wage theft or a fraud or some scam of some sort, they have someone fighting for them. No one else will fight for them. And we will deter bad actors from thinking that they can keep doing these things to DC residents. And then we'll get a potential monetary benefit when we win these cases and settlements. That goes back into other programs that then help DC residents be uplifted. That's how you use the law and rewire a system to empower people.
I love that. That is so important. Let's go back a little bit about when you talk about the expungement clinic. So that's for anyone who has a felony and above, or what does that mean exactly?
So there's going to be grades. You're going to have to analyze it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, sure.
So there might be some misdemeanors. There might be low-level drug offenses, non-violent felonies, things of that nature. Because people who have those types of offenses then would have a hard time being integrated into the normal job market. And we want to create, and this plays right hand in hand with a restorative justice program that gives people a second chance, give them a diversion from punishment. But you're analyzing on a case-by-case basis. It doesn't fit for everybody.
Okay.
But when you give people a shot and you're giving people access to counsel that they may not be able to afford otherwise, that is a great luxury. You're not having to pay $3,000 so an attorney can write some documents up for you. That's $3,000 you don't have to then go and do something else positive with that money.
That's a good point. And also, another big thing you mentioned, being able to document your wills and things of that nature. I know when we were growing up, a lot of those services, some of them were available, but we didn't necessarily know about them and the importance of it. So I think that program would help, like you said, also instill some of the knowledge and the necessary education. So I think also some of the programs that you're going to implement is really helping us as far as the education and the knowledge, because a lot of times we're not privy to certain policies to understand or have the education around how that policy or that program is going to benefit us.
Right. So I talked about Bernice. As a senior, seniors get taken advantage of. You have a trust in place, will in place. You have a personal representative. That personal representative is registered, and that personal representative can't just go and spend that senior's money for their own benefit, which we see happen far too often. We're out in front of it. We don't have to have the impossible task of trying to recoup money and things on the back end. We're out in front, precluding it from happening in the first place.
That is so important. And as always, we're running out of time. So you guys make sure you vote June
21st.
June 21st. And when you get your ballots, make sure you fill them out and mail them back as soon as possible.
For Ryan Jones for Attorney General.
That's it. And before we go to your campaign, you can close us out with your campaign pitch. Tell everybody what your social media handles are and where they can find you.
You can find me at Ryan Jones ESQ on Instagram. You can find me at Ryan Jones for AG on Twitter. You can find Ryan Jones for Attorney General on Facebook. I appreciate your support. I would love you to go out and vote for me. Tell a friend, bring a family member. We have to get people to the polls. We don't continue to run into laws being changed. Roe versus Wade happened.
Thank you so much, Ryan. You guys heard it here. The next Attorney General of DC. Make sure you guys get out and vote for Ryan Jones. We'll be back after this break.
Please excuse my tie, y'all, but I am so excited tomorrow about the Chelley Roy Show. I got to run this gym. I'm running late. I got to get in the gym. I got to get this workout in so I can burn off some of this energy, because otherwise I'm going to have a very difficult time sleeping tonight if I don't burn off this energy. I'm excited about tomorrow's show, the Chelley Roy Show. Hey, this is going to be epic. This is not staged. I don't have talking points. I don't know what she may ask, but that's what I like most about the Chelley Roy Show. It's authentic. It's real. It's what people want. People want to hear the truth. You're not going to hear from a politician. And please pray for me that I keep my right hat on, because I'm really a community activist and an advocate, and I've been advised to try to stay in your candidacy hat. So I'm going to do so. Pray for me tonight. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, because we're going to have some honest conversation about how do we reimagine law enforcement, public safety. We got to reimagine law enforcement, public safety management. So I look forward to seeing y'all. The Chelley Roy Please excuse my tie, y'all, but I am so excited tomorrow about the Chelley Roy Show. I got to run this gym. I'm running late. I got to get in the gym. I got to get this workout in so I can burn off some of this energy, because otherwise I'm going to have a very difficult time sleeping tonight if I don't burn off this energy. I'm excited about tomorrow's show, the Chelley Roy Show. Hey, this is going to be epic. This is not staged. I don't have talking points. I don't know what she may ask, but that's what I like most about the Chelley Roy Show. It's authentic. It's real. It's what people want. People want to hear the truth. You're not going to hear from a politician. And please pray for me that I keep my right hat on, because I'm really a community activist and an advocate, and I've been advised to try to stay in your candidacy hat. So I'm going to do so. Pray for me tonight. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, because we're going to have some honest conversation about how do we reimagine law enforcement, public safety. We got to reimagine law enforcement, public safety management. So I look forward to seeing y'all. The Chelley Roy
Thank you guys. Welcome back to the Chelley Roy Show. I am your host, Chelley Roy, and my next guest is candidate for PG County Sheriff, Mr. David Grogan. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Happy Wednesday, by the way.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's an honor to have you here. So, shall I call you Dave or David, or what do you
Dave
go
is
by?
fine.
Dave.
Just not Mr. Grogan.
Just not Mr. Grogan.
That's what I used to call my dad. My granddad.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
All right. I got you. No worries. We'll go with Dave. All right. So before we get into some of the topics in your campaign and how you plan to attack change within PG County, tell everybody what your background is and your ties to PG County.
Yes. I'm a long-term resident of Prince George's County.
Okay.
Grew up in Glass Manor.
Oh, wow.
High
Oxon
School.
Hill. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a Clipper. black and gold clipper.
Yeah.
And so, when I graduated from high school, I joined the Marine Corps a month later. When I left Oxon Hill, I was excited to head to Paris Island and become a United States Marine.
I
And
love that. Thank you for your service.
quite welcome. You're quite welcome. And from there, I went to Bowie State, where I played football.
Oh, boy.
Yes, black and gold.
Okay.
Thank
Some
you.
athletes in here. You
Yes,
guys see
indeed.
that?
Yeah, played football at Oxon Hill and played football at
Bowie.
Bowie State.
Okay.
I started my career in law enforcement as a student at Bowie State.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
worked for the Secret Service as a student, and I worked for the Department of Justice, United States Marshal Service as a student. While I was the captain of the football team, one semester
Wow.
on, one semester off.
Okay.
That's where it all began there. Students back then.
So that's kind of like ROTC in a sense, sort of like the entry level program before you actually get into like the career world, so to speak.
No, not really. I kind of wish I had taken ROTC when I was in high school because when I went to boot camp, one of the things they found, what they thought was going to be a weakness of mine, is that I had never taken ROTC, so I didn't know how to march. So
Okay.
when you're in boot camp, they try to find something how they can break you somehow.
Yeah,
So they
of
thought that
course.
was going to be that didn't work.
It didn't
That
work.
didn't work. No, I belong to the cooperative education program.
Okay.
As co-op students, and basically that's like an on-a-job trainee with the
Gotcha.
Department of Justice, U.S. Marshals. And so I worked alongside with the U.S. Marshals in D.C.
Wow. Okay.
And when I was a student with the Secret Service, I actually worked for the director of the Secret Service. His name was John R. Simpson, the late John R.
Okay.
Simpson. He took a real interest in me. And I was his protege. He was very proud to call me his future Secret Service agent.
There you go.
So I had some great experiences with both.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure.
like family. I would go to one agency for a semester, and the next semester I would come to another agency.
Absolutely.
Really met some great people.
I was going to say that's the best experience, though, the hands-on on the job, so you can kind of get the experience along with the education, and it kind of just makes sense.
Probably
You
got
know what
more
I mean?
action when I was a student than I did throughout my career when I.
Really? Oh, because they put you to work because you're sort of like the rookie in a sense?
Yeah,
or-
well, the back then things were a little bit more liberal, and so
Mm-hmm.
although when I used to go out with the U.S. Marshals in D.C., I was supposed to be watching, and there would come times where I was like the referee. Sometimes we would have to make arrests with people,
Wow.
and sometimes the family members would start acting out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I would watch, and if I felt like our guys were having a little
Getting
trouble,
out of control.
I shouldn't say this, but hopefully we're not going to get in trouble now. But I had to step in many times
Yeah.
as a student. And a
Yeah.
lot of times with the mental health, people don't realize when a person walks away from a mental health institute in D.C., they actually issue warrants for them. So those warrants come to us.
Really?
Yeah, and could be very dangerous.
That's interesting. That's a good point that you made. I would never know that. So when you leave, when you voluntarily
You walk away from St.
check yourself
Elizabeth.
out,
you're
they
not-
issue a warrant? Wow. Okay. That's good to know. Did you guys know that?
And what makes that dangerous is obviously if a person has been committed to
Yeah.
they've been, identified as, having some mental health challenges. And so
Yeah.
You have to.
No, I can see the severity behind it. You know
But
what
we
I
knew,
mean?
you know,
Yeah.
back then law enforcement was a lot different. We knew the difference between a traffic stop, a mental health patient, a felony stop, a murderer, and
Right.
you just adjusted your actions accordingly. You didn't
Which
take the
is
same.
important.
You don't take the same actions on the traffic stop that you take on
Exactly.
a felony warrant.
Yeah. So that's really important that they actually do that, put the warrant out, like you said, so you'll know, how to approach the situation, which is helpful. So let's get into your campaign, and so that I don't forget, because it's very important. Early voting starts in July, right?
Yes, July the 7th. You tested my memory right now. After 8, whatever. I was studying before I walked up here.
Well, that's okay. I just
July
want to
the
make sure we
7th through
put
the
it.
14th is
Okay.
early voting.
Okay.
The most important day
There
is
you go.
the 19th, July the 19th.
July 19th.
And it's
Okay.
critical because this date has changed. The initial date was June the 28th.
Okay.
And so we just want to keep putting it out there. Election day in Maryland is July the 19th.
Okay. July the 19th, you guys, election day. So how are you making sure that it's communicated throughout the community that the date has changed, to make sure that people are aware of that important day?
Yeah, well, I run a very high-profile campaign intentionally. and we speak to hundreds and thousands of people a day, a week. And when I write things, I write on all different forms of social media. I
Okay,
always
good.
try to add that reminder on July the 19th is election day. But we also want people to know the dates for early voting, and the dates, the last day to register to vote. Those dates, and challenge my mind on those, but I think the last day for early voting is the last day to request your mail-in ballot
Okay.
is June 28th. Don't hold me to that. I could be wrong.
That's
It's
okay.
after
So
hours for me.
PG is doing the same thing. You have the option of going into the polls, or you have the option of requesting a mail-in ballot and then mailing it in.
Have to request it. Not going to automatically have to
Okay.
request it. If not, just early voting, election day, July the
Okay.
19th.
July 19th, you guys. You guys heard that. Okay, so let's get into some of these topics because I know PG County is
Call it Prince
Prince George's.
George.
Thank you.
No more gorgeous Prince George. That's the past. We are prestigious Prince George's County.
I like that better.
We're going to put that gorgeous Prince George's
Prestigious.
behind us.
Yes, I like that. I like that. All right, so talk to me about how you plan to enforce and establish the Sheriff's Department's integrity and the professional responsibility.
So a part of my vision, I never like to say platform.
Mm-hmm.
Always remember, platform is something people are told what to say, talking points. If you're talking to seniors, say this. If you're talking to this group, say that.
Mm-hmm.
And that traditional political nonsense, I call it.
Right.
So I just, I refer to mine as my vision. And I do have a vision to have an Office of Professional Responsibility and Integrity and Assurance Unit. And what that is, it's a unit that's going to be like an oversight. One of
Okay.
the challenges that we have in law enforcement, it has always been like this. I think the world found out after the George Floyd incident is oversight. There's not adequate oversight with law enforcement when they're out doing their work. And so I'm going to create an office that's going to do that because oftentimes people don't realize that law enforcement is a service to the community.
It really
The
is.
Sheriff's Department is a service to the courts, and it's a service to the community. So I don't know any service industry. I love the service industries now because, I go to my dermatologist, 10 minutes later, I get a text and want a survey. How was your service?
Yeah.
I go to Verizon, anything, because now there's always checks and balances. If you ride down the street, you see a truck driver, on the back of it, it'll say something to the effect
That's so
of,
true.
tell me how you like to drive. Is there a problem? Call. And so we need to establish something like that in law enforcement, which we will, where when we have encounters, especially if we have to do some type of law enforcement actions at a person's home, especially anything high profile, anything that people's lives could have been placed in danger, we want to know. We want to find out how did things go.
That's important.
That quality assurance unit, and we're also going to raise the standards in what we expect when we recruit and hire. That quality assurance, they're going to do background investigations. We're going to suggest that we play a role as the Sheriff's Department, play a role with our city council. Because what people don't realize, the sheriff, there's a lot of confusion between the sheriff and deputy sheriffs.
Okay.
Deputy sheriffs are government employees.
Okay. So we're going to go to a quick break, and then you can explain to us what the difference is, because that's a big one.
Yes.
We'll be right back after this break.
Please excuse my tie, y'all, but I am so excited tomorrow about the Chelley Roy Show. I got to run this gym. I'm running late. I got to get in the gym. I got to get this workout in so I can burn off some of this energy, because otherwise I'm going to have a very difficult time sleeping tonight if I don't burn off this energy. I'm excited about tomorrow's show, the Chelley Roy Show. Hey, this is going to be epic. This is not staged. I don't have talking points. I don't know what she may ask, but that's what I like most about the Chelley Roy Show. It's authentic. It's real. It's what people want. People want to hear the truth. You're not going to hear from a politician. And please pray for me that I keep my right hat on, because I'm really a community activist and an advocate, and I've been advised to try to stay in your candidacy hat. So I'm going to do so. Pray for me tonight. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, because we're going to have some honest conversation about how do we reimagine law enforcement, public safety. We got to reimagine law enforcement, public safety management. So I look forward to seeing y'all on the Chelley Roy Show tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Chelley Roy Show. I am joined here with candidate for Prince George's County Sheriff, Mr. David Grogan. All I could think about was, what you call it? Gorgeous George.
Prestigious. No more gorgeous. We want to put the gorgeous Prince George's behind us.
Gorgeous Prince George's. That's what was in the back of my mind. So before we went to break, you were talking about and trying to educate us on the difference between deputy sheriff and sheriff.
So a big component of my campaign is going to be an educational piece.
Okay.
An educational component, because most people have no idea about any of this. They just don't. And so the traditional politicians, they play off the fact that they know we don't know. And so a part of what I have done, and I will continue to do, my grandmother was a professional educator.
Okay.
My mother was a scholar.
Okay. So educators running your family.
Exactly.
Love it.
So I've been educating all my life. So part of my campaign is education. And the biggest question that comes up is, what is the difference between the sheriff and the police? There's a huge difference. First of all, the chief of police is appointed by the county executive or a mayor. In the case of D.C., Councilman Ryan or candidate Ryan, the chief of police is appointed by the mayor.
Okay.
And so the chief of police obviously answers to the mayor or the county executive.
Gotcha.
The elected sheriff is assigned to you all, the voters. You all elect the elected sheriff. And I think there's a lot of confusion. I see some dialogue on social
Never knew
media.
that.
People don't know the difference. I'm talking about there's only one elected sheriff. The operational people serving warrants and evictions and working the courts, those are deputy sheriffs. There's a deputy sheriff. A deputy sheriff is a government job, like a police officer. They apply through local government, and they get those are jobs, government jobs. But the elected sheriff in Prince George's County is the chief law enforcement officer for the county.
Gotcha.
Answers to the voters.
Answers to the voters.
Chief of police answers to the mayor or the county executive.
Okay.
It's two different worlds.
That's huge. Did you guys know that?
Most people don't know, and we're going to continue this. That's one of the reasons why we have coloring books for our elementary school kids. Our coloring book is famous in the county. It's good. The sheriff is your friend, and it tells elementary school students exactly what the sheriff is. So we don't have, when they grow up, they're going to have some idea. So they took civics out of schools many years ago, decades ago.
Yeah.
And so now we graduate, and we really know little to nothing about government.
Right.
And professional politicians, trust me, they bank on us not knowing.
Wow. That was great.
Yes.
That's imperative. All right, so talk to me about your vision on accountability and transparency over Prince George's County municipal police departments.
One of the challenges, and I say challenges, I have to be careful, as I mentioned earlier.
Yes, you do.
I wear a number of different hats, and in my heart and most of my life, I am a civil and human rights advocate and activist. So I've been advised to try to keep that hat off and be the candidate. So if you hear me stuttering,
that's okay.
That's what me
You're
trying
just being mindful of
I want to
what
be
you're
mindful
saying.
of what I say.
Yeah.
And so what I've discovered in Prince George's County is that there's a lot of different levels of training with our different law enforcement. We got municipal police officers, we got county police officers, we got state, and we got sheriffs, and everybody's got all these different kinds of training. I think that we have to standardize that training for some degree. Let me just give you one example. You can pay for a class, and I'm still doing some work on that. You can go take a class in the county community college, get some type of certificate. I'm not sure what it is. I'll get more information. And then somehow that qualifies you to be a municipal police officer.
Really?
In Prince George's County. You could never do that in Virginia, Certainly not.
So you can go take a class,
You can take a
and that qualifies you to become a police officer. You don't have to go through training, academy, any of that?
That
I
class
can't.
that you pay for.
I can't.
Keep in mind, a police officer, a county
Wow.
police officer or state police officer or federal law enforcement officer, they are hired by government, been interviewed. The vetting is a little bit
Wow.
different, and you've been selected. When I was selected to be a deputy United States Marshal, I was selected by the Department of Justice. We are sponsoring this young man to go to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, paid
Yeah.
to become a deputy U.S. Marshal. And of course, you have to pass the training. But what I've discovered in Maryland some years ago, that you, for whatever reason, can't find sponsorship through government, you can just go
take a class.
take a class, and then now you can become a police officer.
Wow.
And then you can rise to the ranks. You can become a chief of police. And you also
Scary.
then you also can, now that you've got some quote unquote police experience, now you can transfer into the past sheriff's department. When I'm your sheriff, I say the past. That will never happen under my watch. Now you transfer into a sheriff's department. You have never had any formal law enforcement training.
Yeah.
You've never had military police training.
That's scary.
We've got a problem.
Because you're just endangering lives, playing around with people's lives, and oh my goodness.
We have got to get,
Yeah.
as an advocate, again, I'm going to keep my candidate face. I'm try not to get, but, I deal with that in my other world,
Yeah.
in advocacy work, activism, where I try to get people to understand why this is a problem. Why do we have police brutality? Why do we have all of this that we see? The officers are shooting, killing, paralyzing. I think I saw today, well, I did see
Lack
today.
of training. Yeah.
With a police officer found guilty of whatever the person did, permanent paralyzation. Got to stop this.
Wow.
It's going to take bold leadership.
Yeah, leadership, education, training. Perfect segue into talk to me about your vision on the importance of hiring police officers or sheriffs that are from Prince George's County and in the community.
The origin or the core of community policing is hiring within the community. And it's very difficult to bring people outside your community and expect them to effectively police your community or serve and protect.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between serving and protecting and policing. See, our communities are policed. Other communities, they serve and protect. We want to get to the point.
Explain the difference.
The difference
for
is that serving and protecting is more along the lines of community. Where you're there to service, you offering a service, protecting when there's protection. Policing is traffic stops that turn violent,
Okay.
overreactions to anything that just should be de-escalated.
Right.
You see, serving and protecting de-escalation, because you're going to always have issues. It doesn't matter what community. There's going to always be problems and domestics, and that's just human life. But how these things are handled is what makes the difference between serving and protecting and policing. We wouldn't go, if we're serving and protecting, we wouldn't go to a domestic violence call and expect to kill someone.
Yeah.
We already know the level of hostility. We already know how we're going to deal with it. We separate people, we calm people, make sure we handle it right.
No,
If
that's
not
good.
trained properly, they won't know the difference between a felony car stop,
Yeah.
domestic call, versus a murderer that escaped from a prison. You have to
Yeah.
have different mindsets to be adjusted. We have to train.
Yeah,
That's
no,
what
that's true. Everything
have to
goes
get our
back
young-
to the education and the training. I know I wrote down some topics and some key points, but as you talk, my mind just sparks up other questions. It's a big thing, and it has been for a long time, especially during the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Talk to me about your vision to implement new policies and changes for no-knock warrants.
I was speaking to a young lady, an older lady, and she asked me what my thought was on no-knock. The first time someone asked me about that, I really didn't know how to answer it, only because I was slightly, I don't get embarrassed, but I'm exaggerating when I say embarrassed, but I was a little uncomfortable. Let me just say that. The reason why I was uncomfortable is I had never heard of a no-knock warrant. I managed and supervised the Capital Area Fugitive Task Force for a number of years. I've locked up some of the most dangerous people on this planet, America's most wanted cases, and all of that.
Wow.
And I had never heard of a no-knock warrant. And so what I explained to this elderly lady is that as a federal law enforcement officer, our training is different. A no-knock warrant to me sounds like a home invasion
Yeah.
because federally we're trained different. We're trained on the knock.
Yeah.
We're trained. We're going to practice. And the reason for the practicing and the purpose of the knocking is for liability. We're going to knock. We're going to have identification. It's not going to say marshal or sheriff. It's going to say police. Police is a universal term anywhere in the world.
It can be
When I knock on the door, it
recognized.
says sheriff, but nobody has any idea what is that. Or I knock on the door, say marshal. What in the world is that? No, it's police. You're going to knock X amount of times. You're going to be identified. The purpose of that is so our officers, if someone on the other side overreacts and happens to fire a weapon or anything, they can't say that I thought I was being
identify.
robbed.
Yeah.
I thought this was a home invasion. So a no-knock warrant, I will support whatever it takes. We will not conduct any no-knock warrants under the Dave Grogan administration. Let me be very clear.
That is
And that's
so-
for the sake of for everybody. Because as the sheriff, sometimes people forget, especially when I'm in my advocacy role. My role is to protect my operational, my workers, and I will protect them and protect the people.
I love that. I can feel the passion, and I know there's going to be so much change. So before we get into you closing out with your campaign pitch, tell everybody where they can go vote again and what your social media handles are.
Yes. So early voting. There's a week of early voting, 7th through the 14th. There are going to be 11 polling sites. During early voting, people can vote at any of the 11 sites, any 11 sites. The difference on Election Day. On Election Day, July the 19th, you have to vote in your assigned precinct. I think we call them precincts in Prince George's County, Maryland. But you have to vote at your assigned polling station. July the 19th. We expect everyone to get out there and vote. We expect you to call, they used to say, Lottie, Dottie, everybody. We expect you to call everybody. Make sure this is so important. Certainly in Prince George's County, please vote Dave Grogan for sheriff. And I can be reached very easily. If any of y'all follow me on social media, if anyone want to have a discussion with me, if you have any questions, you want to talk personal, you want to talk private, you want to email me, you want to text me, I can be found at davegrogan.com. I'm always happy to give my personal cell phone number, 301-651-9178. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Nextdoor, and I'm very active in all forms of social media. I want people to know who their next sheriff is.
And that's important.
Access to that person.
That's important. So tell us really quickly your campaign pitch, sorry.
My pitch?
Yeah.
My pitch is fairly simple. If you're interested in reform, law enforcement, police reform, if you're interested in reimagining law enforcement, not police, reimagining law enforcement management. Management is responsible for all the actions of law enforcement officers. If you can reimagining law enforcement management, I ask you to consider Dave Grogan, to vote Dave Grogan on July the 19th.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. So thank you so much to candidate for Prince George's County Sheriff, Mr. Dave Grogan. I also want to thank candidate Attorney General for DC, Mr. Ryan Jones. You guys have been amazing tonight. You guys make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Chelley Roy Show, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram. I want to thank everyone who continues to support me. You guys have a great night.